I first met our speaker, Julia Corden, in October 2006, when I was, believe it or not, the Scottish Rock Garden Club's traveling speaker throughout Scotland. I gave, I believe, 10 talks in 12 days, going around all around Scotland, ending up at the discussion weekend that Julia, our speaker, was organizing in October 2006 in the town of Pitlochry. And Pitlochry is where the Explorers Garden is located, where she worked at the time. That's a woodland garden in Pitlochry, Scotland, that commemorates the Scots who have gone around the world looking for new plants to bring into our landscape. Now, Julia was trained at the Royal Horticultural Society in Wisley and also the Royal Botanic Garden in Edinburgh. She was judged at the Chelsea Flower Show and served on various Royal Horticultural Society committees. She's a past president of the Scottish Rock Garden Club. She's also a freelance botanical tour guide, leading tours for Brightwater Holidays. She has led tours to Switzerland, Greece, Costa Rica, Chile, South Africa, Japan, and New Zealand, guiding trips for the Alpine Garden Society, the Scottish Rock Garden Club, and the North American Rock Garden Society. She's here today to at the beginning of the North American Rock Garden Society's East Coast Traveling Speakers Program, beginning here and going up the coast this afternoon to Washington, D.C., and speaking all the way to New Jersey and Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, I believe, like that. So that's her tour. But she's here today to speak on the topic of rock garden plants in Scotland and England. So please welcome Julia Corden.
Okay, so we're going to go a whistle-stop tour around Scotland, and then we're going to end up in England, southeast England, to have a look at the changing environment in the southeast and what we're doing about it. This is what I was asked to talk about, so hopefully you enjoy it. So in Scotland, we have a huge amount of rhododendrons. The climate is perfect for it. It's cold in the winter, down to about -10, -15 centigrade if we're lucky. It could get colder, and then up to about 70 degrees in the summer, which I know for you is cool, but for us that's hot in Scotland. So as I say, we're very well known for our rhododendrons. This is Rhododendron prosteatum, var prostatum, with this beautiful, lovely foliage. It's in one of the gardens on the west coast. This is a fabulous Rhododendron falconii, which also comes from the Himalayas. So for me, that's important because I've been lucky enough to see these in the wild. We'll talk about Explorers Garden when we get there. So on the west coast, you'll find these growing up to at least 20 feet high with beautiful bark. And in the wild, they're much taller. They have these fantastic, big, glossy, thick leaves, and they're just gorgeous, beautiful texture. We also grow lots of peonies. This is a tree peony called Peony delevii. We'll grow anything up to 6 to 7 feet high. And even how I got all of mine was that we actually dug them out of a friend's garden. Her mother was wanting them out, so we went and dug them up. They had great big stems coming up everywhere. We threw them in the back of the van. No niceness about it, because they say don't dig up peonies. Well, we did. These great big tree peonies, and we brought them up to Pitlochry and planted them in the garden there, and they have just carried on growing beautifully. So the flower is only a couple of inches across, but it's still beautiful. You get delevii, which is the red form, and then you get the lovely luteum as well, the yellow one, and then you kind of get an apricot colour, the hybrid one, in between. Also on the west coast and at Branklin, you get Cassiopes. These come from as far as North America, right the way through to the Himalayas, nothing in the southern hemisphere. These are beautiful little ericaceae with these fantastic bells that hang down. They grow anything up to 2 feet high, depending on which species it is, and other ones just creep along. They much prefer to have their feet in peat. But I'm not sure how you're going, but in Britain, it's now, within the next year, we're not allowed to use peat at all, which is a bit worrying for some of our plants. This is a hybrid. This is called Patty B, a lovely little rhododendron that grows a couple of feet high, but goes out sideways as well. It's one of Glendoick's named ones. And for me to see these rhododendrons cinnabarinum, it's just lovely. These grow in the Himalayas in Bhutan, and they go from a darker colour to this, and this is a quite unusual hybrid, this colour. Again, growing tall. Persia is really lucky, that's whereabouts I lived, where my garden is, because we had a huge amount of plant interested people 100 years ago, or 70 years ago, or whatever, and even still now. So we have Cluny Gardens. The lady on the left, Wendy, her father started this garden from seeds that he got from George Sheriff. George Sheriff is one of my plant hunters that is celebrated in my garden, or the garden at Pitlochry. And Bobby Masterton used to pay money to Sheriff, and he would get a portion of the seed. So this garden to me is amazing. You go around and you'll find trees that were originally collected, the seed, by George Sheriff. Wendy and her husband, John, have taken this garden on about 30 years ago when her father died, and they have brought it on in leaps and bounds. It's one of the most beautiful gardens and naturalistic gardens in the area. These lilies growing in front of them, this is Lilium marticon that comes from Europe, and it just self-seeds now as a weed everywhere. And also the giant lilies self-seed there too. You can see some big ones behind them, these ones here. These are cardiocrinums. They grow anything up, there's even one there that's there, anything up to 3 to 4 meters high. They take 7 years from seed, and once they've flowered, they then die. But what's good about them is that we've got the big bulb that dies, and usually you get little bulbils that come up the side, and they take only about 3 to 5 years to come into flower. Last year, they had 120 in flower in the garden. He went round and counted them, and it was 120. When I lived in Scotland, we always had like a bit of a thing of who had the most in flower. He always won. Another plant that they're very famous for, if you're into primulas, John's a complete nut on primulas. He has the best Asiatic collection in the whole of Europe. This is a fabulous little one called Primula sonchilifolia. That's been there for the last 48 years at least, because I remember seeing it when I was a student at Edinburgh, and I was taken up there to meet Bobby Masterton and look at the rare primulas in early April. These ones usually actually come into flower late February, early March in Scotland. They have this lovely Faraday on the white powder on the leaves, and they literally come, if I've got it right, no, let's go back. So they literally die away in the winter, and then they erupt, and as they erupt, the flower stem comes out, and you have this exquisite flower. John's very good at growing them. So the cabbages at the back there, which are not cabbages, they're very rare primulas. These are other Asiatics, which most people would be happy if it was only 1/2 inch high. He's got them 6 inches. And then he plants them out in the garden. Their garden is on a, south-facing slope, southwest-facing slope, covered in trees, and the water just seeps down to everything. This year, I have to say, they've had a really bad drought. And when we went in May with the NARGS trip, we were asked, make sure you tell your clients to go to the loo before you come, because there's no water for the toilet. It's more important for the plants. They're on a spring, so it's just one of those things. So anyway, you've got beautiful aracemas. The aracemas there grow up to here. These literally, they're up to there on me. They're amazing. And they, again, just seed around. Also, Primula pulvulenta. You plant it here, and in 2 years, it will be over there. But it's great because it loves living in fresh, new soil, which has got lots and lots of nutrients in it, and they just grow beautifully. They have special plants growing in nice little areas, quite often where the public are not allowed, or they don't realise they're special because they've hidden it behind a plant. And we have quite a lot of problems in Britain with people stealing plants, so John never labels anything. The Primula sonchifolia, which you've just seen, if you were there on your own, you would never see it because it's hidden. Meconopsis cookii old rose won't be quite hidden, but most people wouldn't know what it is. and it's a bit more difficult just to scoop up with your hand. So this is a lovely little Meconopsis, a hybrid between the blue Meconopsis quinquepernervia, which has a hanging head, and a red one called Meconopsis punicea. It's crossed, produced it old rose. They also grow trilliums. I know you guys grow trilliums, and I know you have fabulous trilliums, but they also grow trilliums. They're some of the best collections they have in their gardens. They grow really well there. This is Trillium grandiflorum floriplena, doing really well in the leaf mould. Also, they have a really great form of Trillium cuneatum. And of course, erythroniums, Erythronium revolutum they have there, and they have them by the thousand. Because what has happened over the years, they've just seeded themselves everywhere and they just keep moving around the garden, or keep spreading around the garden. The lowest section of the garden, if you're there in April, is just pink with these fabulous erythroniums. And nearly all of them have got really nice coloured leaves. So for me, George Sheriff is one of the best collectors. I'm biased because I like blue poppies. Sheriff was one of the gentlemen that brought blue poppies into cultivation, and he has helped Perthshire get a good name on unusual and Himalayan plants. So the Explorer's Garden was started in 2002. Somebody had built the basic layout of the garden when I took over. He was just there for 18 months. And I then started planting it. And by the time I left in 2020, due to COVID, we all got made redundant, myself and all my volunteers. It was to do with, we're owned by the theatre. We had an amazing collection of blue poppies, a national collection looked after by most of the volunteers, and we had about 54 different cultivars. Now the garden has reopened in the last 18 months, 2 years, and now they're just trying to get it back to as it was when we left. But I reckon by the time we left, it was actually just getting to the peak of the garden, but still. So as you see, I'm a bit of a plant Meconopsis nerd, and I love them. This is Corden. It hangs its head down. We had lovely stone walls there, and this whole area is just full of Meconopsis. This is Meconopsis grandis sheriform. When Paniotti came, we had a conference at Pitlochry I organised for the Scottish Rock to celebrate one of the big birthdays. PK could not get over our Meconopsis. He was there at the right time. So if I stood by this one is this high. I was at a garden this year down the road, and this man had bought Meconopsis from me and everybody and a few other people, and he had thousands in flower. But the thing that he did wrong was he mixed them all up. But I could still walk through and go, that's mine, that's mine. And this is, that mine one is actually going to get named, not my name, it's going to get hopefully called Pitlochry. It's a clone that is just amazing. And the flower is huge, big flower, and it looks at you. My favourite should be that one, but it's not. It's Corden. Corden hangs its head just slightly down, so you have to look underneath, and it's a pale blue form. Grows about 3 to 4 feet. There's another picture of the special one. But what I've put this in for is the reason they grow so well there is because it's wet. Does it ever stop raining? If it does, it will stop raining for maybe 4 or 5 or even 8 weeks if you're unlucky. Then we have to irrigate. But what we also do, and that's what this picture is to remind me to say, that we always top dress the whole garden of the Meconopsis and Primula area every autumn. And one side of the path would get covered with well-rotted cow manure, at least 2 to 3 years old. And on the other side of the path, it made it much easier doing this, was really well-rotted leaf mould from the garden. And then the following year, it would be the other way around. So they didn't always get cow manure, and they always didn't get leaf mould. It would be a cycle, so it was great. And the Primulas loved it so much that they would just self-seed everywhere. We also have some really special species there, or we did have. This is Meconopsis superba, a beautiful white one that grows about 5 to 6 feet high, if you're lucky. Beautiful clear white flower, silver hairs on the leaves, The only way to get it, because it's a biannual, but it might take 2 or 3 years to flower, you'd plant like 100, and if you had 20 flower, you would be lucky. And in the winter, they're like satellite dishes, great big flat. All the leaves drop down and they look like a big satellite dish or a plastic bag when the frost hits them. We used to never cover them with plastic, a lot of, like a frame. Quite a few people, if they had them just in their private gardens, would do that. We would just leave them. They would, even with a frame on, you would still lose them through the winter. They just go like that for no reason. So these are, it is still in cultivation in Scotland, but we had the breeding colony. So I know they haven't got it anymore. But it's an exquisite, and this one's actually got pinky bits there, that's okay, that's still the straight species. So I should have said each plant produces thousands of seeds. Primulas are great. This is Primula alpicola luna, a creamy white alpicola, and the scent is exquisite. If it was sitting here, the whole room would smell like jasmine. It also throws up amazing colours like this. So this is the red form of Primula alpicola, but more than likely this is the hybrid that's crossed with Waltonii, and then you get a complete mixture of colours from dark reds, oranges, whites through to creams and yellows and everything else in between. This is a lovely Primula which we grow, which comes from, this actually came from Arunachal Pradesh circuit that I collected in 2001 with Ron Macbeth. And it's Primula sycamensis. And this is a really good form because the flower really opens wide. And normally it's a bit more enclosed. But on the banks, we have special peat gardens there, and this is Primula flaccida, a lovely little primula that self-seeds, and it needs to keep on seeding every 2 or 3 years because it just dies on itself. Primula inviu with these bright red, orangey flowers. If you leave it in the same place the whole time, it gets duller and duller and duller. If you keep splitting it every 2 years, it gets the new vigour and you get the most amazing bright orange. Also growing there is Nemochorus. This is a hybrid. I'm not going to put a name on it. My friend used to grow these, Susan Band at Pitcairn Alpines, and it would take her 2 years from sowing the seed to flowering, which is unheard of. We don't know of anybody else who could do it. She used to do them in old fish boxes, polystyrene boxes. They get sown, get leaf mould as their base, thrown outside, near enough literally, let have all the winter, and then they would start germinating, and she could get them through big enough to sell within 2 years. And that's just to remind me to say all these plants wouldn't really grow if we didn't have such fantastic water. And as you can see, it does get cold. Or as cold as we do there. We were really lucky. John didn't have Primula whitei down at Cluny, and I was actually able to pass on a plant to him instead of him giving me plants. This is Primula whitei. Used to grow right down by the burn. The moisture used to be popping over it all the time. You can see it's got droplets on it. And this one has a stem straight from the base of the plant. Sonchifolia has a stem and then the flowers coming out. And again, this is where Sheriff used to go off to the Himalayas, and this is where he used to go. We were very lucky. We used to go plant hunting, not to collect plants, but to actually see the plants in the wild and work out how to grow them in cultivation. And there's a fantastic book written by Fletcher all about the diaries of George Sheriff and Ludlow, and we used to sit and study that. And we had all the original copies of the original diaries, and then we would work out where we wanted to go in the Himalayas into Bhutan. And we had a fantastic guide called Sonam who used to work it out and get us into new areas before anybody else. He used to have a friend in the tourism, in the parliament, and the guy used to say, well, where do you think trekking people would like to go now? And Sonam would go, this place here. And then we'd be allowed to go because we were just trekking, we weren't looking at flowers. And when we got in there, we would then go to the wrong valley as well, which was great. But we're so far up, nobody can find us. So this is the Meconopsis grandis range that we found. This is on the Arunachal Pradesh border at Sackton. We weren't the first in there, but we were near enough the second people in there. And you get all these colour ranges. So this explains why we had so many cultivars in Scotland. We haven't got that pure red one. We used to get reddy colours if it had been a cold winter, but we were actually finding plants that definitely had red, complete red in them. We also found a new species. This is Meconopsis gacadiniana. We were there. We met a Japanese man leaving as we were going in, and he was quicker than Kit Gray-Wilson was in naming it for us, so it's the Japanese name. It's a beautiful plant. Sheriff wrote about it, but no one could actually prove that it was a new species, but it's now been done. Has these beautiful wavy petals. Grows about 4 feet high. There's also other amazing plants there, like the Sorceria obulata, which we have difficulty in growing in Scotland. I know Tromsø Botanic Gardens grows it really well. And if you open the flower, you can find the composite flower inside. It has these bracts on it to make sure that the insects can get inside and they pollinate it, and it's much warmer for them. So it's like a little greenhouse. But this is the kind of place we were going. It's an amazing location. This valley is fantastic. It had thousands and thousands of giant Meconopsis paniculata, the yellow one. But for one of the most special thing was to find this Meconopsis sheriffi. It had only been found a couple of times by Sheriff. We knew of one location that he definitely had found it. And over the years we've been going, we've now found 6 locations. I know some of you had seen some of these yesterday, sorry. The Rheum nobile, these are amazing. These are giant rhubarbs, they grow this high. And again, when you open up the bracts, you find these amazing flowers inside. The insects, it's always full of insects in there, and they're doing the pollinating. It's like a little greenhouse for them. And in the wild, if you're in China, you don't see that, but if you're in Bhutan, you do find it because the local people eat it. And where we're going in Bhutan, we would never see many people. They cut it just before it comes shooting into flower, and they boil it like cabbages. If you go just down the road from Cluny and from Pitlochry, you come to the Branklin, which is the Renton's garden. They were very much good friends with George Sheriff, again, another people that were giving money to Sheriff to bring back seeds. This is their beautiful Meconopsis. This is Meconopsis Dorothy Renton, named after her. It's a very small garden. I know quite a few have been there, but it's an exquisite garden where you walk around, you'll find all these little plants, little gems. And the people that came in 2019 or whenever, the garden's even been kicked on again even more with an amazing amount of more plants. Lovely big clumps of Cypripedium farreri growing there. Again, trilliums. Everybody loves growing trilliums. Everyone's very excited about trilliums in Britain and in New Zealand. This is Dorothy Renton. It's a lovely blue one. There's a lovely rock garden there where they can grow lots of things, small things from all over the world. Lots of little rhododendrons in flower there at the time. And also they have peonies hidden away from the public and the temperature, because we shouldn't really grow peonies, but they do. And fantastic roscoias. In May this year, there was beautiful big clumps of roscoias. It's the lovely cultivar with a pink tinge to it. Rhododendron Coccinum speciosum is one of their largest rhododendrons they have there. And when you're coming in the front gate, come to the top of the rock garden, you can see it right down the far end of the garden. It's this bright orange. But with this bright orange, it doesn't really produce a scent. So we'll shoot off around Scotland looking at some of the Scottish Rock Garden Club private gardens. This one is Carol and Ian Bainbridge. They live down in the south west of Scotland, and they've been doing and making a lot more crevice gardens. They've just finished a new one about 2 weeks ago. So this one was actually their lockdown one over COVID, and they've really done well, put loads of stuff in, and it was looking really good this summer. They also have quite a few areas whereabouts they've let the mosses grow. You've got bluebells. Their garden kind of slightly goes wild into the woodlands, which is what it's meant to. So you go from their crevice gardens up through the mossy areas. You've got ramondas in flower there from the Pyrenees, going up with our native bluebell there, which has not been planted. They've got a bluebell wood. They've just kind of agreed with the farmer that they're going to have the top part of the wood. Okay, so I'm plugging Scottish Rocks. My turn to do that now. So the Scottish Rock Garden Club have an amazing website. We have fabulous blog by Ian Young. A lot of you I know will have seen it. And we have the International Rock Garden magazine, which is out once a month at the end of each month. That's it. Which Maggie runs with Zizi from the Czech Republic. And this is their garden. Their garden is just amazing, literally full of geraniums and orchids. And he has to drive over it to get in and out. I have to say now, he doesn't drive very often out. They don't go that far. They're just staying in Aberdeen now. Maggie just stays at home. So those orchids at that time of year, he wouldn't drive over them, but it's always fun to show that picture. Their garden is fantastic. If you haven't looked on our website, please do. You don't need to be a member to get all this for nothing. We're very much in just trying to get information out there. The other amazing garden is this one. This is pictures from this year. This is Margaret Taylor on the left there, and two of our young guys that came from Michigan with their boss Chris Hansen on the NARGS trip around Scotland. And in front of you here, you just have a huge big tufa rock garden that Margaret made with her husband Henry, who passed away a few years ago. The garden is small, but you would not believe how many special treasures they have in it, and it's always the best form. It's 50 odd years of, he was a breeder for vegetables, and she also worked at the vegetable place at the research station. So Henry always liked to do crossing, always wanted to find the best clone of everything. And my gosh, their garden, every square inch, you just don't know where to look to find the best thing. They have this beautiful salmisia. This is Salmisia semicordata, David Shackleton. It has the most amazing, beautiful white, creamy white leaves. And then has lovely big white flowers, obviously. And Lilium oxypetalum, another one from the Himalayas, collected by Sheriff. Just to show you how big our Meconopsis are. This is Meconopsis grandis. It's a hybrid. And I think when I was doing this, I couldn't remember the name, but it's actually going to be called Les Drummond, after a very good Meconopsis grower in Scotland. And it's one of Margaret and Henry's hybrids. And that's Curtis from Michigan. They also grow a couple of big clumps of Meconopsis, named ones, which don't pollinate with each other because they're sterile. And they also grow just a couple of Meconopsis, like this aculeata. So they have nothing else in there that will cross with it, so they know that this seed will be pure. This is a monocarp. It flowers once and then it dies. It may take 2 years to flower, and obviously then it dies after that. Grows about 6 to 8 inches high. And we know that the seed from there will be pure. Other gardens in Scotland, they've been hybridizing with Horticultural and racemosum, and so no one's really sure what the true one is, but this one in Margaret and Henry's will always be true. They make sink gardens out of all sorts of things. This is their big one with lots of sedums, oxalis from Patagonia, sempervirens, just everything self-seeding into each other, but special things. They're always just full of flowers, and if you come on a Scottish rock garden trip to Scotland through NARGS, you always end up with tea and cake. Linda Crouch is a new garden for us this year. So this is completely opposite. So you go to Henry and Margaret's, it's 50+ years old. They have everything that everybody drools over and no one can get unless Margaret gives it to you. You go to Linda Crouch's garden, it's 5 years old. And you can go, and everything she's got from here is things that people in Scottish Rock have given her or she's bought. So none of it is amazingly unusual, but it's the way she's done it. So you've got a giant lily popping up here, which is absolutely fantastic. She's got Mechanopsis, primulas everywhere. Everything is beautifully put in. Her rock garden is to die for. Her rock garden is twice the size of this room. She's done it all herself. She's moved every rock herself, actually nearly all the rocks herself. If they were very big, her husband would help. He was not into gardens, didn't want to know about gardens, and this just kept her going, doing this on her own. She started it in lockdown, and it's just carried on. But she has amazing Daphnes here, dianthus. You know, she would go down the garden centre and use things you would never normally pick up to buy, and she's popped it in. You know, I've been like, oh, I can't plant that, that's just Albrecia. But she's done that, and it just marries together, and oh, it's just amazing. Beautiful salmisia at the base there. And the colours, you know, you've got rock roses, the red rock rose up here. You've got asters here. This is just Aster alpinus, but aren't they just fabulous? Other gardens in Scotland, you go from that beautiful private garden to, we have these kind of gardens too. We never went on when we went to on our tour, but it just shows you that we have other things in Perthshire. So it looks like a French chateau. It looks like a French garden. You don't expect to find that in the middle of Scotland. If you go up the far west coast of Scotland, which we didn't do on the tour, we go to Inverewe Gardens, which is a fantastic plantsman's garden. It's right by the sea's lapping it there. You've got a beautiful walled-in garden, a curved walled-in garden. So the sun comes in, hits it, beautiful vegetables. Up behind it, there's a hillside full of amazing rhododendrons, unusual trees and shrubs. Beautiful rows of vegetables, and the bottom section is all flowers. They can't grow Mechanopsis though. They tried to. Those now no longer, that's about 10 years ago, and they're now no longer there. It all depends on the head gardener. If they're into it, then they'll keep them. But you have to work at Mechanopsis. The colour combinations are great. This is a geranium with achillea. You could actually grow that anywhere, even down in south of England. But it also takes the water because it pours up there. They have a beautiful South African Mediterranean border. This is it here. This is all taken away for the winter, put inside the greenhouses because it does get too cold there. They have a New Zealand garden. Look at the salmisias there. Absolutely fabulous. And acephilas. You can't do Scotland without going to Edinburgh Botanics. It is the mecca of alpines and plants. This is Elspeth, who used to look after the rock garden, with David Knott, the curator of the whole gardens. This is the alpine house. Well, it's a relatively new alpine house. It's got a tufa cliff at the back up here. This is the rock garden here, and tufa cliff there too. They still have the old alpine house, which John Mitchell has had changed, as in updated, renewed, because the wood was falling to pieces. And if you go there in the early spring, you'll see displays like this. Elspeth is retired now, Scott's taken over, and you'll still see beautiful displays like this. Lots of Iris reticulata. A lot of those came from the breeder in Canada. Narcissa, cyclamen, Iris. Yes, that's a sunshine is from up in Canada as well. And then you've got crocuses and snowdrops. It's a bit different, this botanic section of the Botanic Gardens. They always want to have colour, so they use cultivars. If you go out around the rest of the garden, it's mostly species. And if you're there at the right time, you see the maritime Primula allioni. If you go there on your own, there's actually wet metal in your face, so you can't actually get in. When you go with a group, John usually takes the wire down so you can actually see through. As I say, they've always had a problem. Even when I was worked there I worked there for 2 years and then I trained for 3 years there. And the 2 years I was there, I worked in the rock garden and the alpine house. Even then, we had problems with people just coming along. They would come along to like this cushion plant and just rip the top out, thinking it was going to work, or just steal the whole plant, which is just so sad. Now they have lots of little policemen around and everything's filmed, but you'll still get, they've had a break-in a few years ago where somebody came over the wall and went for special plants. Down at the Peak Gardens, which is one of the first ones that were built in Scotland by Alf Evans back in the 70s. This is Meconopsis punicea. It's been upgraded and redone recently. This is Meconopsis duogii, a yellow one that only grows a couple of feet high and has brown hairs on it. And the only blue poppy they grow is Meconopsis sheldoni, which is actually a hybrid. And it's this most electric blue. Beautiful drifts of Cypripedium. Just these are the hybrids that have come in from Germany. And now I was asked to do a bit of Scotland and now go down to the southeast and do some, so we're not going to do much alpines down here, but we're going to look at some of the other amazing gardens and how we're looking at changing our growing situation down, our medium down there, because it's getting so hot and dry down there now. We've just had a horrendous drought that went from April through to about the end of August, and then we had 2 inches of rain within about 2 days. So a lot of plants are being suffered. So this is Arundel Castle. It always has an amazing tulip festival. It's just fabulous. They have it for about a month and they have their plants, their different types of tulips coming up into flower throughout that time. This is in Sussex. That's a cathedral. Behind the last picture we'd seen the castle. This is a lovely maze they do. And these, a lot of these tulips are planted each year. Quite fun. They don't grow many species tulips, which is what I would want to see, but hey ho, that's fine. The lovely pelargonium collection they have in their old greenhouses always looks exquisite. And they have a stumpery, which is now starting to put echiums in there, which even 10 years ago you would never have grown echiums. Down in the southwest of England, down in Cornwall you would grow them, but not in the southeast. But it's just beautiful to see all their tulips. This is a garden that not many people really go for. And then you've still got all these amazing private gardens. This is one just down the road from me called Fittleworth House. They're still not going the modern way of what they're doing. We'll see that in a minute, but it's just showing you what private gardens, and these are open under the National Garden Scheme, and they're always great to go and have a look at. It's actually a friend of mine who runs this. So they always, you know, the old days in Britain, the big gardens would have great big vegetable gardens, which take too much time. He's now changing half the vegetable garden into flowers, which is going to make it easier for him. But if you come to the southeast of England, you have to go to one garden, maybe 2. But Great Dixter is my favourite garden. And it's just fabulous. Whenever you go, they always have a beautiful pots display by the entrance. This was owned by Christopher Lloyd. It's now run by Fergus Garrett. The garden is now in a trust to make sure that it just keeps going and doesn't run out. Now that Christopher's gone, they would hate for it to be sold, so it will never be sold. If you go there at the right time, the baby daffodils, the small daffodils growing in the meadows are just beautiful. The meadow then goes through a stage, you'll get fritillarias, you'll then get orchids and wildflowers, and they cut it in July once everything is seeded. It's just beautiful. As I say, the pots displays are fantastic. They have I normally go twice a year, once in April, the first weekend in April, because there's a fabulous plant sale. And last weekend, actually, I should have been there, but I was here over this side of the pond. And you have different different plant nurseries, like Derry Watkins, and all sorts of people will be there. There'll be over 30 stands. None of them are big garden centres. They're all people that will have amazing plants. And it's like dropping a kid into a sweet shop. Which one am I going to buy? Can I carry those all to the car? It's so bad with so many people that the whole area gets blocked up, with the roads get blocked. But it's great. The borders are really amazing. These are some of the best borders that I know of. Everything is mixed in together. Everything is, even if you go there in the spring, you'll find things coming into flower, and then that dies down. The next thing comes up, and it's always looking amazing, whether it's April or October going. There is always something of interest, and it's as soon as literally something else is coming up through it to then come into flower. Fergus has done the most amazing job. This is their vegetable garden with all the beautiful hedges everywhere. This is the vegetable garden with ferula, and it's just beautiful. So they still do the vegetables, and they use these in the cafeteria, the little restaurant that they have. But he's very much into biodiversity. He's very much into making sure that the ecology is right for the garden. When Christopher finished, or when Christopher passed away, one of the first jobs Fergus did was to get a count of all the insects, bugs and everything growing there, living there, not growing, living there. And they do this every few years, and they have found with the way that Fergus is doing the work here, their count has gone, it's near enough doubled with a different diversity of insects and bugs that they have. And it's great. You just creep down. Everything is growing into each other. Things are seeding. Not everything's pulled out when you think maybe they should have pulled that out, but it just looks fabulous. Oh, this is the plant sale. And you never know who you're going to meet. So the gentleman standing here is a guy called Tom Stuart Smith, who's one of the top designers in Britain. So you sneak in early. If you're a member, you can get in a little bit earlier before everybody else. So I'm usually a member, so I can do that. And so he's there looking for new plants. He's just built this, I haven't been yet. He's just built this amazing new plant library just up in Middlesex at his garden. And it has over 15,000 herbaceous plants, as in types. And each plant is planted in a square about, I think it's 2 feet by 2 feet. It's planted in pure sand. And he's trying to have a plant library so people can learn. He's very much in using more different plants in his landscapes compared to the same 20 or 30 that people seem to like in herbaceous or perennial. So he's trying to get students and new people to start learning about all these plants and start using some of these amazing things. So he's trialling stuff there, things that you would never think of using in the southeast of England. He's trialling too. And as I say, it's going into pure sand, very much a Peter Corn way of doing it. Another fantastic nursery there, and that's Rosie from Hardy Nurseries. And she always has the most exquisite type of plant. There's always something to buy there. Same as Derry Watkins. That's always another straight I have to go and buy from. So when I broke my leg, when I was in Scotland and I got made redundant, I was asked to go back to Goodwood. It just so happened they asked me to go there. It's a big stately home. They don't have many flowers there, or many things that I would love to grow. I redid the arboretum for them. Beautiful magnolias on the walls they have there, which you'll see all the way through the southeast of England, or even going further north, you'll see these beautiful magnolias. But what we were starting to do there, and as many people are, we're starting to do these mixed borders with lots of different things. These are new borders I'd been doing. So you've got annuals in there that are just going to give us like this salvia at the front. And then at the back, you've got the agastache. This is on pure sand. We're trying to get more plants to grow, and then these will seed quite happily. And we're starting to change our way of thinking. So you've got Liatris mixed with the scabious and the fennel. And of course the Titonia, because this is what we're all trying to do, is to get more bees. Britain has got a thing where you used to drive down the road when I was in my 20s and you would have to scrape the insects off your car because there's so many. Now you hardly have to clear any because there's not many around. So Britain is very much going forward in trying to get more plants in that are going to be nectar plants. Oh, that's it. So we're trying to go off doing these petunias with scaevola and pelargoniums and trying to make things a bit more longer lasting. These are some of my lovely borders I liked. You've got the sage there with red lace flower and agastaches. More salvias mixed in with things. But we still like to do our dahlias. I do, definitely. We have to take them. In Scotland, we used to have to take them in, but down south, this is off my allotment actually, and I leave them in the ground. I cover it with loads of grass cuttings and all the other rubbish I've got on top of the rhizomes, and they make it through the winter. One is I don't have the time to redo them in each spring. So coming back down into the southeast now, we do still have beautiful rhododendron gardens there. Different kind of things. They're much more into the azaleas. They don't grow a lot of the massive big Himalayan ones like they do up in north of Scotland. These are all deciduous. We've got some of the species, but not the Falconii and things like that. This is at Leonardslee, just outside of Haywards Heath, near Gatwick Airport. And it is just beautiful at that time of year. And the smell from that, because you've got the yellow ones there, it will be exquisite. RHS Wisley, well, you can't really go to the southeast of England. You've got to go to Great Dixter, but you kind of got to drop into Wisley as well. They've just done a whole load of new entrances and new walkways, and because they're into numbers of people, even if the people aren't interested in the flowers, that's what they want through the door, because that brings the money. You've got these beautiful prunus growing there, and if you're there at the right day, it looks amazing. The beautiful wisteria looking up the long canal towards the RHS headquarters, used to be, now no longer. That's moved to the top of Battleston Hill. Well, but if you're there in May time, you might see tens of thousands of Camasias. They've done these huge big drifts of Camasias through, where you get the lovely long grass in the spring, in the summer as well. So again, attracting more bees. This is the new headquarters. You can see where the lab used to be, or still is, the old lab's down there. And this is the new area where they've got the laboratory, whereabouts they've got a herbarium, they've got the library, and all those kind of things are up in this building. Down here, we've got a much more Mediterranean way of planting, because they don't want to water stuff. We don't like watering if we can help it now. But for me, it's always to go and stand at the top of the rock garden and look across the garden. It's always the beautiful view. This is looking down to the greenhouses. So you're now standing on top of the rock garden. So that's where we were standing a minute ago, up here. And this is the bulb field, the bulb meadow. This has been going for many, many years, at least 60 plus years, because I remember since a small child. And it goes through stages. The narcissus start dying out. They then have to do some more work to it. It gets cut every July. So this is Narcissus bulbicodium, the hoopcoat petticoat flower. It's very wet there. And here we have the rock garden with all the beautiful sandstone that comes from Fittleworth in West Sussex, just down the road from where I live. You never know who you're going to meet when you walk round the corner at Wisley. So on the left, if you don't know, that's Todd Boland, who's the NARGS president. And a couple on the right are actually friends of ours. They're Darwin and Pam. They're part of NARGS, and they come from Nova Scotia. They were over, there was a whole group over from Newfoundland, and they had gone on the trip. So at Wisley, they've been redoing things. You've got the lovely tufa wall still on the outside. This is all full of Phytoplexus, Aubrietia, Arabis, Alyssum, Primulas, all sorts of things. And inside, they've just rebuilding part of the rock garden inside and made it more tufa. At the top alpine house, you've still got all the display house with lots of bulbs and alpines at any time of the year. Down in the bottom landscape house, you've got these fantastic, great big, I can't say it. Thank you. I guess you say it louder because I can never remember. I can never say it, it's more to the point. Acantholinum. So these great big plants, they're not 1 or 2 years old. These will be 25, 30 years old. Up through the woods, you'll find trilliums, of course, and they do trials. So this is a trial of Fritillaria imperialis with these amazing colours. They've moved the trials field, which used to be down by the A3. It's now being put up in an area where the old plant centre used to be, and stuff are not growing properly there. So these all got put up in the woodland. It's too hot down the bottom. And if you're into tulips or dahlias, or if you might even see her podcast, or you might see her Instagram, Sarah Raven's garden is beautiful if you want to see tulips or dahlias en masse. It is very, very beautiful, and you do find species there as well, but she has the most amazing colour combinations. If you do want to go and visit this garden, it's on the Kent-Sussex border, just down the road from Great Dixter. She's only open on certain days, and you have to book well in advance. But it is just amazing to see these things. And always in the area where you're walking, you'll find a little metal box like this with all the beautiful flowers named up in them. These are some of the small, well, they're not species, but they're named, but they're very small ones. They're beautiful. I've just bought some of these similar from Farmer Gracie, and they turned up this week by a bit earlier than I thought. So thankfully somebody's picked up the parcel and put it in my house. So this is Honesty. It just seeds everywhere and it's perfect to grow. That is Sarah Raven in her greenhouse where we can all walk, and this is where she grows all her salad things. She writes lots of books and does lots of stuff on the internet. So that's the kind of gardens we all used to grow. And now things are changing. The temperature is getting much hotter in England, not like your temperature. It's a dry hot, and we're getting huge droughts. So all the big gardens are now thinking how they can start growing plants that are going to be more sustainable and live longer and not need water. So Sissinghurst, which is owned by the National Trust, has just done the Dallos Garden, designed by Dan Pearson. They've done one section. It's been beautiful. They're now just about to start doing another section. So it's all kind of Greek plants, plants from the Mediterranean. You've got lots of teucriums. You've got iris and guicularis actually hidden down through here. So euphorbias everywhere. When everything got planted, I think they watered them in, and then that's it. They don't water again. And things are now self-seeding quite nicely. It's grit and a little bit of compost, but mostly grit. The olive trees didn't like the first winter. Some of them died. They've left some there just to give some structure. That's one of the very expensive trees that actually died. But anyway, it still looks amazing there. They're growing, as I say, lots of teucriums, salvias, euphorbias, and all sorts of bulbs depending on when you go. And it's the public are actually really liking it, which is great, because the National Trust do not usually do modern new things. The National Trust thing is to make sure the garden looks like it would have done when the owner was there, however long ago they finished working there. But they have now started changing their minds, and they've made this amazing garden at Sissinghurst. It's really not what you're expecting to find at Sissinghurst, so it's really good. This is what you expect to see at Sissinghurst. Mixed borders with herbaceous coming up, bulbs early in the spring, like this with Arum creticum coming up through. In the hazelnut walkway, you expect to see anemones, trilliums, uvularias, all growing, and snowdrops earlier than that growing under these. So they're still keeping the main ones that people expect to see, and they've just done this amazing new garden. It really was just a bit of a mixed borders. So now it's the Dallos Garden. This is what you expect to see in Sissinghurst in the old garden with heleniums, verbascum, roses, all mixed borders, all through together with the hot colours here. But now they're adding things like cannas and watsonias. You couldn't grow watsonias, these are watsonias here from South Africa. 10 years ago, you grew them in the southwest. I mean, I'm trying to get hold of some Watsonias, and I can only get them from two nurseries down in the West Country. And of course, the white garden, the beautiful white garden at Sissinghurst with the lovely roses. Lots of umbels now because they're self-seeding, they don't need the moisture. And so they're kind of changing the species or cultivars that go in there to make sure that it all grows on. One of the gardens that's kind of going for it in a big way is Westdean Gardens. It's a lovely garden north of Chichester, west of where I live, and they are doing a huge amount of work with concrete and with sand, and we're just going to have a look at a few of this. Is in their old herbaceous borders. They do lots of trials, and this is how the garden used to be, with these amazing Victoria greenhouses, which they're going to keep. They have Crocus thomsonianus growing by the million in the grass, mixed up with crocuses. But they're very much into making sure everything. So this is obviously a bug hotel. Anybody who knows me? There's my dog called Poppy, or not anymore. And you've got these lovely borders here that they're trialing all sorts of things. So they're putting lots of cannas in here to try them out, and all the way down through here, which is really good. This is all full of salvias. And this is the kind of thing that, and on the left-hand side, it's all plants that are into bees. So the public can come here, see what they like, everything's labelled, and they can go away to the shop or just go and buy it somewhere else. But what they're doing, this is a raised area that used to be alpine, more and herbaceous, which didn't really do. They needed to water it all the time. And so what they did is they just took a bit of the soil off and they put 4 inches of sand. They didn't go and buy the expensive builder's sand. They just went to the local quarry, bought a load of yellow sand, and it all just got put down. And they've put plants into it. And they haven't washed the soil off, where if you're talking to Peter Corn, he would say make sure all the soil was washed off, split it up small, plant it. They've actually just planted in with whatever soil's there, and the plants seem to be putting their roots right down. In the base, where the holes are, these are thyme all planted together. Some of it's growing really well. Where the public walk, it's not growing quite as well. The borders, I took these pictures about a week before I left, so that would be September. We still had some colour in them. They had the textures and the beautiful foliage, and that will not now be cut down until the early spring, because they want to have the textures for the winter. They want the insects to be able to use the stems, and they want the seed heads as structure and for birds to eat. So you've still got echinops in flower with nephophias. You've got some lovely grasses there. The agastache on the right of the picture is in seed. And it's just looking really nice, the textures across here. So this is the way they've done it here. He's also, if I've got it right, oh, it's another one. So you can actually see the yellow of the sand, and it's not any special sand, just from the local quarry. This is actually 2 years old, that one. Well, now this area, which is about 3 to 4 years old, they had a lot of concrete, bashed up bricks, bashed up slabs, and they didn't crush it. They just left it in lumps or made the lumps a bit smaller. And this whole area just got covered in it. And when you look at the soil, it's no soil, it's just lumps of concrete. And they planted into here. No water, again. You've got beautiful eryngiums, verbascum, lovely grasses. This has now been going 3 to 4 years. This is this area here with the lovely grasses through here, eupatoriums, liatris, the pink liatris. And it's just literally concrete, just bashed up, and bricks. No water, and it's just self-seeding. You can kind of see what it looks like there. Bits of bricks and bits of stone all mixed together. And it's worked really, really well. This is the same area, that colour through there. Wow, September, you've got everything's still flowering really well. Knepp Castle is another place, a bit further to the east from me. This is a Tom Stuart Smith design and James Hitchmoff, and Jacqueline McVicker. This is an estate that about 20 years ago said it needed to stop doing everything, stop farming, and to make it much more green. They don't cut down dead trees, they leave it. They use longhorn cows to graze the ground. They've got pigs in the fields as well. Nothing's really penned up. Okay, around the outside of the whole place it is. They've got great big red deer everywhere. They're kind of letting it go wild. They're very well known in Britain for that. So they had a walled-in garden, which they didn't really want to grow vegetables. They didn't have time. They didn't want to do that. Anyway, what they did is they spoke to Tom and to James. And Tom and James came up with this idea that they would got them to get all the rubbish from across the farm. Bricks, stones, any old rubbish like that. They crushed it all to make like a much coarser sand, and then they landscaped the whole of this walled-in garden with hills, with going down and going up. So you've got the areas where you've got the tops of the hills will be much drier. Down in the little bases it will have water. Nothing got watered though, but I mean literally if it catches any water it goes there. And it is amazing. This garden is fabulous. They planted stuff in very small pots. It was put out in different areas. Everything was mixed up together. It was planted and then they overseeded it by sowing seeds. They do weed, so they weed out if stuff are getting too boisterous, too big. The shrubs they've got there are from the Mediterranean and they call it goat pruning. So they don't go around and cut thing into a little round blob. They take a lump out here and a lump out there, so it looks much more natural. And this garden is just fabulous. I went back this year again in September, especially before I came here, to get some pictures of this garden. No water this year at all. Not a single drop of water has been put on there artificially. So it hadn't had any water since really beginning of May, right the way through until August. The plants have got their roots right down into the ground. And it's very difficult to dig out a plant, they said, and it's just looking so good. The only difference this year, the colours, what I saw, were 2 weeks earlier than last year. That's the only difference. And I know it's not as hot as you, but we've had it up in the high 80s. We've had it into the high 90s as well, which is very unusual for the southeast of England. It has alpines there. It's got pulsatillers planted in there. They looked really good, even though it's the end of the year, so there's no flowers, so I didn't take any pictures. And they have all sorts of amazing daisies. They've used a lot of Mediterranean plants, a lot of plants that have come from the Far East, you know, and the deserty areas, and they've just mixed it up and made this amazing thing. I haven't got pictures, but if you're into that kind of thing, look up James Hitchmoff online or on his Instagram. He has just made a garden in Somerset, literally in the last 2 years. He turned fields full of grass into these amazing gravel gardens. Different areas with different sized gravel. They've planted it, and the latest pictures, and I don't steal pictures, otherwise I'd have stolen them off his Instagram. The pictures at the moment are looking amazing, the colour. He's growing plants from South Africa that you would never think we could grow in our country, because you would think that they would get killed by the winter. He was a professor up at Sheffield University, retired 2 years ago, moved to Somerset, and it is the most amazing place. He does lots of lectures all over the world. He's like one of the top people on this subject now in Britain. Oh, that was a quick one. That might have been the last one, but I didn't think. Oh, yes, it was. Oh, it was my last one, sorry. Okay, I got too excited. I forgot I was at the end, sorry. Anyway, so that's what... So Britain is changing, as I said, and it is quite amazing to see what people are doing. Anyway, that's what I'd like to finish my presentation on. But as I say, the new stuff that's happening in the southeast of England is quite amazing. A lot of people don't quite get it. I have to say, Peter Corn has been doing this for at least the last 10 or 15 years. He did it in crevice gardens. He was one of the first people to start saying use sand. And he has now been doing these amazing herbaceous borders or mixed borders across Europe. He's just done a huge project in London and he's using pure sand and it looks amazing. No watering. That's what we need to do, you see. Okay, raise again. There you go. So the gentleman that changed the garden of the grass to an amazing garden, his name is James Hitchmough.
Pitchmont.
Yes, Hitchmough. He's on Instagram. Don't look for him on Facebook because he's not there.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, his stuff. He's written books on it. He's a professor and he is amazing. I've been to some of his lectures. If you go on, there's garden masterclass, British Garden Masterclass, or the Creative Academy. If you're really into it, he's doing lectures and workshops and all sorts of stuff by Zoom.
Thank you. I'm now following my Instagram.
Okay, see, as quick as that, he's on Instagram already. Okay, sorry, next one. Somebody else put their hand up. Yes. So I've just been asked when would I go to see Echinopsis in Scotland. I would go in May. Usually they start flowering early April, if you're lucky, and they usually finish flowering at the end of June. So I would always say, go the middle of May, and then you'll get everybody. Yeah, I've just been asked about the climate change in Scotland, as I've been droning on about it in England. In Scotland, you're not getting the hard winters, so you're not getting the snow. So in the 1980s, the village I used to live in would have had 2 or 3 foot of snow. We're lucky if we got, and a long time. We're lucky if we get 6 inches at a time, if that, and then it's gone within a few days. So you get wet, cold, low cloud, and it's very depressing in the winter. Hence why when I went to go and move, I moved back to the south of England. It's a bit hot for me in the summer, but I can acclimatise to that. Amelia, you did have your hand up, sorry.
In your garden?
I've started. Oh, sorry. I've been asked if I would use the sand in my garden. So I've already had 3 tons of sand delivered. I've already put 2 tons in my front garden, but not finished it. And I've got 1 ton for my crevice garden. So I have to finish my crevice garden in the next 5 weeks when I get home. The stone's all lined up. The stone has come from Scotland, from my garden, stole from my friend's garden. Actually, no, she gave it to me. I took a truck up to clear stuff this year, and I came back with the whole base of this truck full of black trays full of stones. Only me would do that. And then we piled everything else on top. So I've already started my crevice garden in pure sand. I'm having out my front garden is going to be prairie garden like this with pure sand, special bulbs, special herbaceous in it. The plants are all lined up already. So people are still using soil. But if you talk to people like Spriggy, Paul Spriggs from Vancouver Island, he would say use sand. Because the plants, then you put them in with no soil on, and then the roots go down, and they go down, and they go down, and they go down to where they can find water. If you have them in soil, they don't really want to go anywhere to find anything. And with the crevices being so tight, you need them to go down to get the water, because you don't want to have to water your crevices. Yeah, they've got no option. They've got no option. Oh, sorry. I was just asked about the peat issue in England and Scotland. What are we using instead? For about the last 20 years, they've been trying to wean us off peat, and we've been doing cocoa fibre. A friend of mine, the guy at West Sussex Garden, bought a bag of every single compost that he could get this year, and I've got to get the information off him. He's done a test. He did tomatoes and he did cosmos, and he did a pot of each with each compost. And the difference is unbelievable. And I keep on forgetting to ask him. When I go back, I'm volunteering for him for 1 day a week, so I'll get the information then. But we've just got no option. We have no option.
No concessions.
No concessions. No, RHS Wisley stopped using peat years ago.
Right.
Botanic Garden stopped using it years ago. National Trust, they stopped a very long time ago. There's no concessions. If you want to exhibit at Chelsea Flower Show or sell plants at Hampton Court, you are not allowed to have any peat at all. You will, and even if you want to sell your plants to the RHS to sell in their shop, which usually come in from Holland, they've been told they can't use peat either. And they're being really strict on it. Sorry, forgot to say, I was asked, why is peat a problem for using? Why should we stop using it? It's because of the environment. Okay, the question is, Cluny had a really nice form of Trillium cuneatum. What does it smell? And the question is, what does it smell like? I can't remember. I don't actually know if I've ever smelt it. Anybody answer that question? It comes from America. So yeah, so I've just been told that they smell between yeast and citrus, and I have no idea. I never got that low. I know if I got that low, I'd end up in the border because John would push me, knowing him. Yeah.
Well, I was impressed. She said tons and feet and inches.
Did I?
Yeah, I was impressed.
Okay, I was trying to.
You did.
But you see, I grew up. I still can't do the Fahrenheit one. I grew up doing tons, feet, inches, pounds, and then Britain decided that they were going to change and make us all go metric. So our flour is in half kilos, but we all still think of pounds. And then you look in the recipe book that's old and it's got pounds or ounces. So we kind of do in between. But you see, I still can't work out how many litres is in a gallon. And now I think of a litre, how much a litre, because I have to buy fuel. And when I had gallons, I didn't have a car.
So does somebody take care of your stuff when you're gone traveling?
So what I didn't say was, so when we went to Goodwood. So last year I broke my leg really badly, and really badly. So I decided I was old enough now that I could go semi-retired. So I'm now a horticultural consultant and did a big project for Goodwood, which was the art foundation that was sponsored by Schwartzman from New York. And that opened in May. So I was working part-time doing that, because by then I'd already booked myself with lots of trips, leading trips, or going on trips myself. So, and I knew I was coming here by then as well. So I just said to everybody, if you want me back, I'll come back as a consultant and I'll just do this project, which I've done. And now I do trips, and things get thrown at me that I'm not expecting. Like yesterday, I got told I'm going to Chile, and when I land, I've got 5 weeks at home. So my idea of building my tufa cliff before Christmas has just gone completely out the window. I have an automatic watering system that I thought was working brilliantly. Yeah. So when I came back, I was away for 4 days in May, and it was really hot, and my Meconopsis was in pots. And when I left, they were beautiful, green, flowering, beautiful. I came back, they were burnt, frizzled. But made sure everything was watering after that properly, and they've started shooting, so I know I've still got them. And when I left Scotland, I took a section of each of my Meconopsis. I then split each of those into 5 collections. Cluny got one, Scone Palace, Binny plants, and Colin Crosby, and I took a few because I knew I was going to the south, which they die. And I literally made sure my collection was out all over the place, which it is. And the one that's growing them the best is Cluny, which is just down the road. And each cultivar I gave him, he had a big 1-ton bag, which he filled up with leaf mold, and he planted 1 cultivar in each bag. And when we were back this year, he wanted to go, and we had to go drag everybody up to go and see my poppies, which was great. And Corden was doing amazing. Has a white cross in it. But yes, no, I've got to get my act together, and I've already spoken to somebody who's now next year going to go in and check my plants if it's bad weather. Oh, hot weather, not bad weather. So bad weather for us would be hot weather. So if it's hot weather, he will go and make sure that my irrigation's working. Otherwise, it was working beautifully. The rest of the garden was fine. It was just that bit.
It happens to professionals.
My slipper orchid survived, but my Meconopsis didn't. The atmosphere, it needed twice a day, the atmosphere just going moisture, and it didn't get it. So it was very dry, hot, and it just crisped it up. Any more questions? Whoa, that's an amazing lot of questions. Thank you.